It was raining like the sky wanted to wash the world clean. Daniel Carter slammed his rusted truck door shut, the hinges groaning like everything else he owned. He was soaked. His shirt clung to his back, his boots squelched in the driveway, and the front porch light flickered like it couldn't decide whether to live or die. That's when he saw her. A woman, early 30s maybe, standing on the side of the road, backpack soaked through, hair stuck to her face, shivering. Not just cold, lost. He hesitated. This was Lincoln Ridge, a forgotten town tucked between cornfields and closed-down diners. No one came here. No one stayed. "You okay?" Daniel called out. She looked up. Her eyes were sharp, but heavy, like someone who used to carry power but had dropped it somewhere on the way. "My rental car broke down," she said. "Tow truck's not coming till morning." Daniel nodded. "We don't have hotels. Closest one's 30 miles out." She let out a breath. It was tired, disappointed, and full of pride. "I'll be fine here." He looked around. Nothing but open fields, a closed gas station, and a town that shut down at 6 p.m. "You'll freeze," he said bluntly. "Come on. My house isn't much, but you're welcome to crash on the couch." She hesitated, clearly not used to kindness without price tags. "Are you sure?" He offered a crooked smile. "I've got a 6-year-old, a leaky roof, and exactly $23 in my account. I'm not about to kidnap anyone." She cracked a small smile. "All right, just for one night." Inside his worn-down home, the woman looked completely out of place. Her jeans were designer. He noticed that. So were her boots. She didn't talk much, just nodded at his son, Lucas, who was playing with a toy truck made from duct tape and hope. They sat at the tiny dinner table. Daniel served canned soup and 2 slices of stale bread. "I'm Daniel," he said. "Jessica," she replied, taking a careful sip. Lucas peeked at her. "Are you a traveler?" Jessica hesitated. "Something like that." And then, as the rain pounded on the roof, something happened. Something small, but real. Jessica laughed at Lucas's bad knock-knock joke. Daniel noticed her hands, delicate but scarred. Not from salons. From work. "You've got CEO hands," he joked without thinking. Jessica froze. Just for a second. Then she smiled. "Or mechanic's hands." That night, Daniel gave her his bedroom and slept on the couch. He didn't know she stood at the door for a long time, watching him breathe, listening to the rain, holding something close to her chest, something heavier than her backpack. She didn't sleep much. She hadn't slept much in months. Not since her boardroom voted to strip her of power. Not since she walked away from it all. Not since she started testing the world, to see if kindness still existed in it. And now, in a crumbling house in a forgotten town, with soup and silence, she'd found something worth remembering. A man who had nothing, yet gave everything. And by morning, the wheels of fate were already turning. Because Jessica Monroe wasn't just any traveler. She was the CEO of Solvia Enterprises. And her one-night stay was about to change everything. By morning, the sky had cleared, but inside Jessica, the storm hadn't. She woke up in a bed that smelled like laundry detergent and dust. The quilt was old, stitched by hand, frayed in places. A small photo of Daniel and his son sat on the nightstand. No woman in the frame. No sign of anyone else in the house. Just a father doing his best in a world that gave him the scraps. She walked into the kitchen to find Daniel making eggs with a cracked frying pan and mismatched utensils. "Morning," he said, without turning around. "Coffee's not good, but it's hot." She smiled. "That'll do." Lucas was already awake, still in his Spider-Man pajamas, carefully coloring something at the table. "You hungry?" Daniel asked her. Jessica hesitated. "You don't have to feed me." He glanced at her. "You needed a place to stay. That usually comes with breakfast." She looked at him, really looked, and wondered what kind of world this man lived in that made him so open, so unguarded, despite having so little. After breakfast, she helped him do the dishes. Daniel tried to protest, but she insisted. It was strange, really. She hadn't done her own dishes in years. Not since board meetings, conference calls, and corner offices became her life. But this felt grounding, honest, human. "You really live like this?" she asked softly. Daniel shrugged. "It's not much, but we get by. I work construction when there's work. Weekends I fix stuff around town. Not many options here. And Lucas, he's my world," Daniel said with quiet pride. "His mom left when he was 2. Said this town was a dead end. Maybe she was right. But I'm not leaving him behind. Jessica watched him, something tightening in her chest. You're a good man. He chuckled. Good doesn't pay the bills. She smiled, but her eyes flickered. Because good men didn't often get the endings they deserved. A knock came at the door. It was Tom Willis, the mechanic from down the road. Big guy, grizzly beard, kind eyes. Saw the tow truck come this morning, Tom said. Took your guest's car into the shop. Total electrical failure. Might take a couple days. Daniel looked at Jessica. You got somewhere to be? Jessica didn't answer right away. Not anymore. Daniel nodded slowly. Well, you're welcome to stay. Jessica paused, clearly debating. Are you always like this? What broke? He smirked. No, she said, laughing. Kind. He just smiled and closed the door. The rest of the day passed quietly. They played board games, fixed a broken step on the porch, and cooked dinner together. Jessica and Lucas bonded over a shared love of grilled cheese sandwiches and knock-knock jokes. That night, she sat on the back steps with Daniel, under a sky littered with stars. You know, she said, I used to be someone. Daniel looked at her. You still are. She turned to him, startled. I don't care who you were. I care who you are now. No one had said that to her in years. Not without wanting something. And in that moment, something shifted. Something big. She knew what she had to do next. But first, she wanted one more day. Just one more day where kindness wasn't currency. Just one more day of being seen for her heart, not her name. Because Jessica Monroe wasn't here by accident. And what she was about to reveal would send shockwaves through Lincoln Ridge. Especially when they realized that the woman sleeping under Daniel Carter's roof wasn't a broke tourist, but the missing billionaire CEO of America's most powerful energy firm. And she had a plan. For the man who gave her shelter. And for the town that the world had forgotten. 3 days passed. Jessica stayed. She swept the porch, fed the neighbor's chickens, helped Daniel fix a neighbor's broken gutter. Lincoln Ridge, once a ghost town in her eyes, began to show its color through the worn hands of its people and the grit in their voices. Daniel noticed it too. This woman, Jessica, wasn't fragile. She didn't flinch at hard work. She didn't look away when people talked about pain or poverty. And she didn't carry herself like someone used to handouts. But still something didn't add up. She didn't say where she came from. Her phone barely left airplane mode. And her boots? Worth more than Daniel's truck. One evening, after putting Lucas to bed, he found her outside, sitting on the old swing under the oak tree, staring at the stars. You're hiding something, he said gently. Jessica didn't flinch. I know. He waited. She looked down at her hands. 5 years ago, I founded a company. Clean energy. Sustainability. It grew faster than I expected. Investors, media, board meetings, it all spiraled. And somewhere in the noise, I forgot who I was. Daniel didn't interrupt. I made the mistake of trusting people I shouldn't have. They voted me out, froze my accounts, silenced my voice in the press. My name vanished from headlines overnight. She looked at him. Her voice was steady, but her eyes burned. I walked away, traveled, wanted to see if the world still had room for good people. Daniel took a long breath. So, Jessica Monroe, Solvia Enterprises. She froze. You recognize me? I remember seeing you on the cover of Forbes once, he said with a slight smirk. Hard to forget a woman who once bought a wind farm in Texas on a phone call. Jessica chuckled softly, brushing hair from her face. I didn't want to lie. You didn't. You just didn't tell the whole story. There was a long silence between them. And then, Jessica asked the question that had been burning in her chest. Why did you let me stay that night? Daniel looked at her, eyes dark in the starlight. Because you needed help. That's all that mattered. Her throat tightened. No one ever offered her anything without expecting a return. Until him. The next morning, Daniel found her sitting with Lucas, showing him how to balance a spreadsheet. She'd drawn smiley faces next to every successful budget. Your dad deserves more, she whispered to the boy. And one day, I'll make sure he gets it. Lucas just giggled and held her hand. That afternoon, Jessica made a phone call from the backfield. Far away from ears, but close enough for Daniel to see her silhouette pacing. When she returned, she smiled like someone with a secret that would soon explode. Daniel, she said, what if I told you I could bring jobs to Lincoln Ridge? He blinked. What kind of jobs? Real ones. Clean energy installations. Solar panel production. Community co-ops. Not charity, Opportunity. He stared. You serious? I've already bought 30 acres outside town. Quietly. In the next few weeks, the project will launch publicly. Daniel's mouth parted. Why here? She looked at him deeply. Because this is the first place I felt human in a long time. And because someone gave me shelter when I had nothing to offer. He swallowed hard. Jessica leaned in. And Daniel. Yeah. You're not working construction anymore. His brows furrowed. What do you mean? You're going to help build this town again, with me. And that's when everything began to change. By the next day, strange cars rolled into town. Clean suits. Blueprints. Quiet deals being signed in corner booths of the diner. The mayor was confused. Locals whispered. And Daniel? He stood in the middle of it all, jaw slack, watching his quiet town become the epicenter of something massive. People stopped him on the street. Did you know? Who is she? And Daniel, always humble, only replied with a quiet smile. She's someone who remembered what kindness looks like. By the end of the week, Lincoln Ridge wasn't just on the map, it was the map. News vans rolled through the dirt roads, kicking up dust in front of shuttered gas stations and homes with peeling paint. Drones hovered. Cameras flashed. And in the center of the storm stood Jessica Monroe, not in a boardroom, not behind a podium, but in jeans and a plaid flannel shirt, standing beside Daniel Carter and his son. The headline went viral within hours. Disgracio returns in disguise, revives dying town after kind stranger takes her in. But for the people of Lincoln Ridge, the story wasn't about a fall from grace or a billionaire comeback. It was about what she did next. She started small. She hired locals to refurbish the community center, paid double the standard wage, offered healthcare, benefits. Daniel, despite protesting, was appointed project lead. You've swung a hammer your whole life, Jessica told him. Now it's time to lead the crew. He hesitated. I'm not. You are, she interrupted. You just don't know it yet. She poured money into the town, not as charity, but as investment. The diner got new plumbing. The library reopened with free Wi-Fi. The abandoned lot became a blueprint for the state's first off-grid solar testing facility. But while the town celebrated, not everyone was pleased. Jessica's former board members were watching. Her reappearance, and sudden influence, was a threat. Late one night, after another news crew had left and Daniel was reading bedtime stories to Lucas, Jessica sat alone on the porch steps, sipping weak coffee and staring at the stars. A black car rolled up quietly. She tensed. Out stepped Raymond Pike, her former CFO. Cold. Calculated. The man who orchestrated her downfall. Well, he said with a crooked smile. Look who traded sky rises for cornfields. Jessica didn't stand. You're trespassing. You're making noise, Jessica, he said, stepping closer. Big noise. Investors are nervous. She smiled without warmth. Good. You're not supposed to come back. You signed an NDA. I didn't leak anything, but I never agreed to be silent forever. He scoffed. What's the angle here? Sympathy play? PR stunt? She stood slowly. This is not about revenge. Raymond's face darkened. Then what? Her eyes burned. Redemption. He paused, unsure what to say. She leaned in. And if you come near this town again, I'll take your empire from the ground up. The kind way, the hard way, or the legal way. You pick. Raymond left, and Jessica turned back toward the house, where Daniel now stood in the doorway, watching. You okay? He asked quietly. She nodded. Yeah, just taking the trash out. Daniel walked over and stood beside her. You don't have to protect this place alone. Jessica looked at him, her voice soft. I'm not used to people standing beside me. You are now, he said simply, and then he reached into his pocket and handed her something, a little drawing from Lucas. It was crude, a stick figure family. Daniel, Lucas, and Jessica. Underneath it, in messy crayon, was written, You're part of our home now. Her eyes welled with tears, because for the first time in a long time, she believed it. The groundbreaking happened under a sky so blue it felt painted. Reporters lined the edge of the site, their microphones ready. Drones buzzed overhead. Children from Lincoln Ridge Elementary waved hand-drawn banners. And Daniel Carter, the man who once lived paycheck to paycheck, stood in a hard hat beside the woman who'd flipped their world upside down. Jessica stepped to the podium. No teleprompter, no PR team, just her voice, clear, firm, and real. I didn't come here to be found, she began. "I came here to disappear. But this town and the people in it reminded me who I am. And that money, power, and reputation mean nothing if you lose your soul trying to keep them." The crowd fell silent. She continued, "This project isn't a gift. It's a partnership. A town like Lincoln Ridge doesn't need saving. It needs opportunity. And starting today, we build a future together." Thunderous applause. Daniel, standing beside her, didn't smile for the cameras. He looked only at her, with a gaze full of pride and something unspoken. A man still adjusting to the idea that someone like her had chosen to stay. That night, there was a town-wide barbecue. The mayor gave a speech. Local musicians played. Old-timers who hadn't left their porches in years came out to dance. And through it all, Jessica didn't disappear backstage. She served burgers. She poured lemonade. She held Lucas's hand when he got shy around strangers. And when Daniel walked up to her by the bonfire, she looked at him with eyes that no longer held weight, only clarity. "I'm not leaving," she whispered. "I didn't think you would," he replied. She paused. "But there's something I want to ask you." He raised a brow. "Help me build more than just this town," she said. "Help me build a life that doesn't revolve around boardrooms and stock prices. One that includes you. And Lucas, if you'll have me." Daniel didn't say anything. He just kissed her, soft, certain, and slow, right there under the stars. And for once, there were no cameras. No headlines. Just a single dad. A woman who found her heart again. In a town that had no idea the ripple of kindness it had started would echo across the country. Epilogue. 1 year later. Lincoln Ridge was no longer forgotten. The town now hosted one of the state's largest green energy innovation hubs. Young families moved in. Old businesses reopened. Local kids talked about careers they never knew existed. Jessica and Daniel, they moved into a modest but beautiful farmhouse on the outskirts, near a newly built wind turbine named Hope by Lucas himself. He also named the family dog Billionaire. And when reporters asked Jessica, once again on a magazine cover, this time standing in muddy boots beside a boy holding a sunflower, how she turned everything around, she gave the same answer every time. "I didn't save anyone. A poor single dad gave me shelter. I just stayed long enough to return the favor."